Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This report follows official statements made at the United Nations about rising tension around Iran. The statements were delivered in a formal setting and addressed actions, ways, and of course positions taken by major states. The focus of this report is limited to what was said publicly and of course officially, without interpretation or added context. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Russia's permanent representative to the United Nations, Vladmir, spoke about the position of the United States toward Iran. He said the United States is increasing tension. He said this is being done through ways and of course actions. He described the situation as dangerous and risky. He said it creates fear and strong public emotion. He used the phrase fueling hysteria to describe what he believes is actually what's not happening. Ladies and gentlemen, according to Nebenzia, the United States is making threats. He said these threats include possible new strikes. He stated that such actions increase instability. He said this approach follows a familiar pattern. He described it as Washington's preferred method of handling issues it considers a problem. Nebenzia spoke directly about how the United States might act. He said Washington will solve the Iranian problem in its favorite way through strikes aimed of overthrowing an undesirable regime. So this statement was presented as his assessment of US behavior. It was not framed as a prediction, but as a description of past and current conduct based on his words, ladies and gentlemen. He also said these actions are attempts to justify what he called blatant aggression. He framed the situation as one where public language and threats are used to prepare the ground for force. His comments were made in an official UN context and were directed at the international community. Nebenzia continued by stressing that such rhetoric has consequences. He said that words spoken by powerful countries matter. He said they can raise fear and tension beyond borders. He framed the issue as one that affects not only Iran, but global stability as a whole. In further remarks, ladies and gentlemen, Vladmir Nebenzia said the United States continues to escalate tensions around Iran. He said this escalation is ongoing and deliberate or intentional. He again used the phrase stoke hysteria to describe how the situation is being presented and discussed. According to him, ladies and gentlemen, this creates an atmosphere of fear and pressure. He stated that Russia expresses solidarity with the people of Iran. This was presented as a support, not as an endorsement of conflict. He said the people should not suffer because of external pressure or threats. He framed this as a matter of principle. Nebenzia also spoke about what he described as hostile external forces. He said these forces are trying to use the current situation. According to him, their goal is to overthrow a political system they find undesirable. He described this as a repeated pattern seen in other cases.
The United States continues to escalate tensions and fuel hysteria around Iran, declaring that help is already on the way. What's more, in its official statements, Washington has not even tried to cover up the genuine reasons for its alleged concern over the country's internal political situation as it threatens new strikes against Iran. Today's meeting, convened by our American colleagues, is nothing more than yet another attempt to justify blatant aggression and interference in the internal affairs of a sovereign state. And if, as Washington puts it, Iran's authorities do not come to their senses, then Washington will solve the Iranian problem in its favorite way through strikes aimed at overthrowing an undesirable regime.
He warned that such actions are not neutral. He said they interfere in internal matters. He said they add stress to an already difficult situation. He presented this as a risk of stability inside the country. The Russian envoy described Washington's rhetoric on Iran as extremely dangerous or risky. He also called it irresponsible. He said that strong language combined with threats can lead to serious outcomes. He also stressed that diplomacy should avoid such path. He also said that what is happening in Iran is another example of what he called color revolution methods. He used this term to describe efforts aimed at changing political system through pressure and unrest. He did not provide further detail within the statement, but the term was used clearly. Nibenzia's remarks were structured to show concern over methods rather than internal events alone. He emphasized that outside involvement plays a major role. He said this involvement increases instability instead of reducing it. Throughout his statement, ladies and gentlemen, he maintained a formal tone. He spoke as a representative at the United Nations. His words were directed at member states and observers. The aim, as presented, was to raise alarm over escalation and to call attention to the risk involved. Nibenzia continued by stating that the United States and its group of supporters are using Iran's internal problems. He said these problems were caused by the West. According to him, these issues are now being used to destabilize the situation inside the country. He said this approach adds pressure instead of helping to resolve difficulties. He framed it as an external effort that deepens internal strain. He said this creates more uncertainty for the population. Ladies and gentlemen, the Russian envoy made it clear that he believes such actions are intentional. He said they are designed to weaken the existing political system. He described this as a part of a broader strategy rather than isolated actions. He emphasized that Iran's internal challenges should not be used as tools. He said outside actors should not take advantage of them. He framed this as a violation of respect for sovereignty. Nibenzia also spoke about responsibility on the global stage. He said powerful countries should act with restraint. He said words and actions should aim to calm situations, not inflame them. He repeated that escalating language can lead to real consequences. He said that history shows how fast situations can worsen. His tone remained official and measured but firm. Ladies and gentlemen, the envoy's statement did not include operational details or timelines. They focus on principles, behavior, and risk. He presented Russia's view as one that calls for caution and restraint. He also stressed that international law and dialogue should guide actions whilst not expanding on mechanisms. He made clear that unilateral pressure was not acceptable from Russia's perspective. These remarks were part of a broader diplomatic exchange. They reflect concerns voiced in formal settings. They are meant to influence the discussions and awareness among UN members. In his conclusion point, Vladmir Nebenzia urged the United States to stop acting as a global judge. He said no single country should describe outcomes for others. He framed this as a core issue in international relations. He also urged the United States to end what he described as escalatory actions. He said such actions increase tension instead of reducing it. He stressed that continuous escalation could have serious consequences. Nebenzia's message was clear and consistent. He called for restraint. He called for an end to pressure. He emphasized respect for sovereignty and dialogue. He did not outline specific steps, but focused on direction and responsibility. He said the current path is dangerous. He said it risks further instability. This statement reflects Russia's official position as delivered at the United Nations. They are parts of ongoing discussions about Iran and global security. They show how different countries publicly framed responsibility and risk. As international events continue to develop, staying informed through reliable and factual reporting helps build understanding. Viewers are encouraged to continue learning, to follow official statements carefully, and to engage with news sources that focus on clarity, accuracy, and long-term awareness. Please like and subscribe to become part of this.